For the next three problems, we're going to have to solve this by either completing the square, quadratic formula, or by factoring. So we need to decide three different methods for three different problems. So the first one I'm going to solve by factoring because it's the only one that's factorable. So two numbers multiplied together gives you x squared. Two numbers multiplied together that gives you 4. So if you cross multiply, notice that they do give you 4x. So my answer is going to be x plus 2. So they're both going to be the same answer. So it'll be x equals -2. The next problem I'm going to use using the quadratic formula. The reason I'm going to use the quadratic formula for this one is because I have a leading coefficient. So usually when I have a leading coefficient, I don't like to use completing the square. So quadratic formula is -b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And a is 4, b is -4, and c is 3. So here's a, b, and c. So we're going to have the opposite of b plus or minus the square root all over 2, 4. So I always like to do the discriminant on the side. So I'm going to have 16. -4 times 4 is -16. -16 times 3 is -48. And 16 minus -48 is -32. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. So I'm going to have 4 plus or minus the square root of -32 over 8. Since it's a -32, I'm going to have an I, but I can also simplify this 32 into 4 and 8, and then 4 and 2. So I can rewrite this as the square root of 4 times 4 times 2. Since 4 is my pair, I'm going to write that on the outside. So I'm going to have 4 plus or minus 4i square root of 2 over 8. And I can separate this into two individual fractions. So I'm going to have 1/2 plus or minus I square root of 2 over 2. The next one I'm going to use by solving by completing the square. Okay, so the reason I'm using completing the square is because my leading coefficient is 1. So I'm going to put a blank on both sides, get the middle term divided by 2 and square. So that's going to give me 9. So I'm just going to add 9 on both sides. I'm going to factor. Two numbers multiplied together gives you x squared. Two numbers multiplied together that gives you -9. So I'm going to write this as x minus 3 squared. Okay, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And don't forget I have a plus or minus. Now the square root of 8, I can simplify that into, so that becomes 2 square root of 2. And then the 3 I'm going to move to the other side.